Hello, and welcome to the Misty Morrison podcast. I'm your host, the wonderful Misty Morrison. So, let me tell you a little bit about the podcast. Here on the Misty Morrison podcast, we have 3 different segments. We have Was I in the Wrong, which was our initial launching segment, where I read Reddit stories and give my opinion. It's mostly Am I the Asshole type stories, where people are either asking if they acted appropriately in a situation that's already passed or asking how to deal with a current situation. The next segment that we have is Petty Please, where we read stories of pettiness, entitlement, kind of Karen behavior. And then we also have What the Fluff, where I read stories. A lot of the stories will be from, tales from the front desk, tales from retail, tales from customer service, tales from tech support, those kind of stories, just where it's just unbelievable the way that people acted. So that is basically what the podcast is. I read the stories, give my opinion. While this is available in audio format, podcast only, or video on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave a comment down below with your judgment on the stories or your advice. If you are listening on podcast, you can comment on socials. You can find me at Misty Morrison Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I post twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We do post more Was I in the Wrong than we do of Petty Please and What the Fluff. So that's mostly the content that we have. And most of our episodes, we aim for the 20 to 30 minute mark for episodes. So it's not super short, but it is still easy to digest. Maybe it can get you through your morning or afternoon commute. I also have my own subreddit, r/Misty Morrison Podcast, where you can submit your own stories to be read on the podcast. I always try to remember to put the link to the original stories on Reddit in the description box below, in case you guys would like to read the original story for yourselves, or even better, leave a comment for the original poster or OP. If you are watching on YouTube, please go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. It helps the channel grow. And if you are listening on podcast, go ahead and leave a 5-star review if you like the content. That is our introduction, so let's get into the stories. Hello, and welcome back to the Misty Morrison podcast. I'm your host, the wonderful Misty Morrison, and this is episode 3 of Was I in the Wrong? We'll get right on into the stories. This is coming from r/Am I the Asshole? Am I the asshole for declining leftover food at my boyfriend's friend's barbecue after the group ate first right in front of us? No. Initial reaction, no, I don't think you can really ever be the asshole for declining food. Like, if you don't want it, you don't want it. That's a choice that you get to make. Okay. Tell me your thoughts on if this was rude. I, 37 female, met my, now ex, 38 male, ex's friends for the first time at a pre-drink barbecue he invited me to join him on. They seemed nice enough, but prior to getting there, my ex said that his friend messaged and said the host feels bad because they're having a barbecue and there may not be enough food for everyone. So if we see food lying around, to not feel bad about it. I said this is fine, of course. I assumed he meant they'd have already eaten and we were joining after. We get there and it's clear they haven't eaten yet. 8 people were invited of the 12 guests for the dinner. 4 of us were not. When it came to mealtime, the 8 of them sat around a nicely set table and chowed down without making eye contact with us while we stood on the outside of the table chatting. I thought this was so weird. My ex did not, I guess. It was awkward because we were actually starving. When the meal was done, the host got up and said, "Guys, please help yourself to the leftovers, LOL." I know people are all raised differently, but this struck me as odd. My ex went and got some food on a plate and said, "Come eat," and for some reason, I just couldn't get myself to do it. I don't even know these people, and it was so uncomfortable. I politely said, "No, thank you," and carried on my conversation. Well, my ex was so bothered by this reaction from me, it ruined the whole evening for him, and we actually broke up after that. He broke up with me. He had originally said we would just eat together at the street festival, so I was bothered that he put me in that position, and then was mad at me for choosing not to eat and grabbing a snack on the street. Is this culturally normal behavior for some people? I live in Canada. I could never eat in front of a guest in my home and not feed them. But is this normal behavior for some? Was I rude or in the wrong for doing this? Or was he gaslighting me by being mad and making me feel like the rude person for declining food? Addition. I am not vilifying the host here. Everyone is focusing on that, and while it is wild behavior to me, I thought it was bizarre and comical. The ass in question is, 1, me for declining the food because I felt it was clear we weren't invited to eat, or 2, my ex for getting mad about my not eating. Whew. That took a turn. Well, no, you're not the asshole. OP is right. I don't really think that your boyfriend was gaslighting you. Definitely seems like a mismatch if this situation was something big enough to break up over. But I'm with you. Like, that would be such an awkward feeling. Like, I hate eating in front of people. If there's not like a whole big meal going on, like if someone walks into my office while I'm eating lunch, I'm officially not eating anymore until they're gone. In the same way in my house. Like, if I was eating, like, I put the plate down. I just can't do it. And I know not everyone's like that. I really do think it was rude of the host to not invite everyone to eat, to just be like, okay, these are the 8 people I invited. You all sit down. And if there's anything left over, you little small people over there can have some afterwards. Yeah, I think that's really rude to be like, oh, well, we all got what we wanted. You can have if there's anything left. Yeah, I would love to know what country this was actually in, but here in America, you are not the asshole. This was a very weird situation. All right. Story number 2. This one is coming from r/2 hot takes. Am I the asshole for wanting to celebrate my culture? Just based on the title, I mean, no. Just on that tiny little title, there's not anything wrong with that. So for the story, hey guys, I need to know because I'm conflicted. I, 20 female, am Hispanic and Russian, so my skin tone is very pale. I was raised with the Hispanic culture, so I know the drill when it comes to parties or holidays or special events. Now I'm 20 and living on my own. I was getting ready for Dia de los Muertos when my friend came over and told me they thought I would have outgrown this. I was confused and asked what they meant, and they told me they thought since I no longer live with my parents that I'd start acting like a regular white girl, because no one believed that I was Hispanic by first look. I will admit that I look almost albino due to my father's genetics, pale skin, and light-colored eyes. I told them that this was still my culture and roots. They told me it was inappropriate to celebrate as if I was a true and pure-blood Hispanic. I got mad and told them to leave. Now they're calling me an asshole for overreacting, and they were just trying to warn me that it will seem inappropriate. So, am I the asshole for wanting to celebrate still? No. Your friends are assholes. Your friends clearly shouldn't be your friends because they clearly have a problem with your culture. Yeah, like the festivities and holidays and things that you grow up celebrating, if you have always enjoyed it, like, there's no reason for you to stop. If that's part of your identity and who you are and you really enjoy those aspects of yourself, you do you. Those friends can go find somebody that they actually like better because clearly they were not a big you fan. No, you, for the most part, known as ever the asshole for wanting to celebrate their culture. Regardless of where they are, who they are, you do you. So, OP is right. Let's see. Okay. Story number 3. This one is coming from r/am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for taking a solo bedroom instead of sharing with a stepbrother? Not enough details in that title. I feel like that could really go either way depending on the situation, what it was. So let's see. My dad and his wife bought a new house together and we moved in last week. Before moving, I, 15 male, was told I could get my own room or share with one of my stepbrothers, 11 and 7. Even though I was offered the choice, my dad and his wife wanted me to share with one of the boys. The reason for that is both stepbrothers think of me as a brother, not a step, and because they both admire/look up to me. The 7-year-old hero worships me and is super clingy and always wants to hang out and be my friend and be my brother. It's a lot, really. I don't like it. Sometimes I like getting out of the house just to not have my shadow with me everywhere I go. Most people would find it sweet, but I find it exhausting. When we lived in the other house, he always wanted to sleep in my room for sleepovers and stuff and was disappointed when I'd say no. The 11-year-old has autism and he looks up to me too, but in a different way. I'm one of the only people he has ever wanted to spend time with. I'm one of the only people he's comfortable around too. He doesn't sleep great, but will nap if I'm in the room, so they thought I'd be good for him in that way. They think I'd be good for both, but they don't have the closest of relationships, and the 7-year-old can make the 11-year-old edgy, so them sharing is not a great solution. I never wanted to share with either of them, and since we all live together 100% of the time, no other parents to go to, I knew having my own room was a big deal for me, so I chose my own room. My dad and his wife were really unhappy about it. They gave me the choice, though, for reasons, so they're willing to follow through, but they're also going to make sure I know how disappointed and unhappy it makes them. We became a step family 2 years ago, by the way. So, am I the asshole? No. No. You are 1000% in the right. I'm really grateful for you that your parents gave you that choice. And you 100% had the right to make that choice. Maybe they didn't think that you would, but also it really sounds like they're trying to use you here. Like, they bought a new house, but it wasn't big enough to give everyone a bedroom. Maybe there's like some kind of flex space in the house that they can, remodel or alter somehow later. Maybe there's like a family room and a den, or maybe there's a small office that could be the youngest one's bedroom. But it kind of sounds like they already knew that their 2 biological sons did not get along great. They didn't want them to share a room, but for whatever reason, they gave you the choice and you are lucky and happier for it. So I think you did the right thing by choosing to have your own room, if only because you will have your sanity saved. And from getting that alone time that it seems like you really value, you'll be able to treat your brothers better because of it. So, OP is right. I think that was a great choice, and I'm glad you had the chance to make it. Story number 4. Am I the asshole for keeping my grandmother's heirloom away from my sister-in-law because I'm blood? Gotta read more. That one's just, the title's not sinking in for me. Story number 4 is from r/AITAH. All names are fake. I, 18 female, recently inherited a beautiful family heirloom, a vintage locket, from my grandmother. This locket has been in our family for generations, and my grandmother often shared stories about its significance and the memories tied to it. It was given to me just before she passed away, along with her wish that I cherish it and pass it down to future generations. My cousin Mark, 29 male, is married to Tina, 24 female. They have been married for 3 years, and we generally get along. Recently, Tina approached me and stated that since she is the daughter-in-law, she feels entitled to the locket. Here we go. It's always the entitlement. She argued that as I'm going to marry into another family one day, the heirloom should remain within her family now that she's married into ours. I was taken aback by her claim. I told her that my grandmother specifically entrusted the locket to me, and I plan to keep it as part of my family legacy. Tina is upset and has told my brother that I'm being selfish. She claims I'm undermining her place in the family and disrespecting her as the new matriarch.
Mark seems torn. He understands my feelings, but also wants to keep the peace in their marriage. My other cousins and their partners also side with her. I'm starting to question if I'm being unreasonable for wanting to keep it. Well, I don't want to give it, but my cousin is pleading me to not ruin his marriage. So, am I the asshole? Edit. People are going mad over cousin and brother. We even call random people on the road brother to sound polite. I never thought it would cause so much trouble. Okay, you are not the asshole at all. OP is 100% right. I feel like anytime an heirloom is given down to a family member specifically, like either in the will or before that person died, they're like, hey, I want you to have this. This is why it's important to me, and this is what I want you to do with it. I think that absolutely deserves and needs to be honored and respected. I think your cousin's wife, Tina, is insane. Like, how does she think she just became the matriarch of the family because your grandmother died when she was not originally part of the family? Yes, I completely agree with fully accepting, the spouses, the people who marry into the family as family, but she's taken things a little far here. Yeah. I don't know why so many people are siding with them, but you are right. Hold on to that locket. If you live close by, if there's any way she could access your house, probably lock it up in a safe, or maybe even put it in a safety deposit box at a bank. But she really seems convinced that she's entitled to this for some reason. I don't know why, but I would definitely take measures to keep that safe from her. All right. We are clicking right along here. Story number 5 is coming from r/Am I the Asshole? Am I the asshole for telling my wife her parents will die? This one completely depends on the context. Immediately, no, because, no, you're not wrong. Everyone's eventually going to die, so let's read the details, because I feel like this can totally flip. I, 39 male, and my wife, 36 female, have been together for 14 years and have what I consider a great marriage. We very rarely have arguments and, in general, have a pretty good life. My wife had a pretty good middle-class childhood. No major issues other than the typical stuff you experience as you grow up. Her parents were loving and did the best they could for her and her brother. There are no buried secrets or hidden abuses. I don't believe either my wife or her brother ever even got spanked. Her parents are divorced, but still on great terms with one another, and with the family at large. They live about 1,200 miles away from us, so we don't see them as often as I would like. Her parents have always been there for us, and on more than a few occasions have helped us financially when we needed it. Honestly, they are a somewhat boring Hallmark Channel family, and I cherish it. Shortly after getting married, my father passed away, and my mother passed about a year later. I was very close to both of them, and the loss was terrible. I often think about every time I didn't pick up the phone to call them or would put off a visit because I'd do it next time. My wife is really terrible about being in contact with her family, but especially her parents. She just doesn't make an effort. I will often ask her if she has spoken to anyone, and she just says, I will later, and then never does. Sometimes weeks go by, and she won't reach out to them at all. Her mother made a comment once that she knows everyone is busy, but she wished her children would reach out a little more. It drives me crazy that she just doesn't try, and there's no reason. I could understand if they had been bad parents or had done something to her, but that isn't the case. When I ask her why she won't do it, she says she doesn't need to. I told her a few weeks ago that I encourage her to speak to her parents because I miss mine terribly, and I really regret every missed opportunity. I just don't want her to have the same regrets. She said she just doesn't feel that way and kind of moved on without saying much more. Her parents sent us some money to cover an unexpected medical bill, and I thanked them, but told my wife she really should reach out and at least say thank you. She said she would later. I'm embarrassed to say that I got angry and I said, you know they'll be dead someday and there won't be a later. She began crying and told me that I was cruel and should never have said something like that. I apologized to her profusely and again told her I just have my own baggage from my parents and it gets to me sometimes. I told her I just want her to use the chances she has now. She told me she will never be able to forgive me and that she will always think about how cruel I was to her. I know I messed up, but I still don't understand why she can't just speak to her parents. Am I the asshole? Yes. Yes, OP is wrong. I mean, I'm glad that at the end of the story, you recognize that you do have your own baggage and you're kind of letting that baggage weigh down your marriage. Not everyone has a close relationship with their parents or their family. Some people only talk on birthdays and holidays and like have a completely, like you've described of your wife's family, perfectly healthy, happy. They just aren't people who stay in constant contact. And that's okay. I know you've said that her mom isn't happy with that. So I do think because you know her mom's unhappy that you've encouraged her to reach out more, but also her mom could be reaching out more. Like that is a two-way street. If she wants more, has she asked her daughter for more? Maybe if she called, her daughter would answer the phone every time. Maybe she would have those conversations. For some people, it's just not a thought in the front of their mind to make those calls, to just say, hey, check on people. It's hard for some people, but I knew this would flip. The way you said what you said about her parents being dead someday, she already knew that. Everybody already knows that eventually one day the parents will be gone. In the back of your mind, you always know, but saying it out of anger and hatefulness like that, you knew before you did it that wasn't going to get you anywhere. That was a horrible thing to say. You're putting your own regrets onto your wife, and that was unfair of you to do. To say that she would never forgive you for that, I think that's taking a little far, but I mean, those are her feelings to feel how she wants to. You were wrong for saying what you said the way that you did out of anger. And I think maybe therapy. You've already acknowledged that you're putting your baggage onto the marriage, but maybe you need help addressing that baggage within yourself so it doesn't have to come into your marriage. Just a thought. All right. All right, a little bit of a shorter episode this time, but we got through 5 stories. It is late. So, thank you for joining me here on the Misty Morrison podcast, listening to Was I in the Wrong? And I will see y'all later. Bye.